Hi, I'm Elizabeth Vasquez, the CEO and co-founder of WEConnect International. I want to thank the UN Global Compact for this opportunity to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on gender-inclusive sourcing. This is a wonderful opportunity to hear directly from a woman-owned business and corporate buyers on how women business owners have pivoted, sustained, and some of them even grown during COVID with the help of corporate champions. The woman-owned business, Akansha Bhargava, the CEO of PM Relocations, is with us today, along with Peter Zerp, Supplier Inclusion and Diversity Program Lead of Accenture, and Lisa Schiffman, Global Director and EY Entrepreneurial Winning Women Program Director for Ernst & Young EY. We are so excited to have all of you sharing your stories of challenges and thriving by innovating and being more inclusive in your business practices. And we want others to understand why you do that and how you do that, especially during a global pandemic. So let me first start with you. Akansha, please tell us about your business. How did you become the CEO and owner of your company?
So I'm part of the wonderful global mobility industry, which looks after people moving overseas across the globe within different countries, continents, cities. So basically unsettling people and then settling them back. And but of course, this pandemic hit us really badly because, of course, travel, transfers, moving to another continent, country, city was just all put on hold. People overnight did not know whether they were really part of that country anymore. Their visas were just, surrendered and they had to leave the country. So it was crazy. And going back to how I started, so I literally grew up in this business because my dad started the company when I was 6 months old. So, he always said that he had two babies. One was his organization and one was me. And I automatically took a liking to what he did. I always saw people moving, seeing cartons, surveys. So I knew the entire conversation around the whole idea of relocations. And, typically in India, women are sort of, married early and they are supposed to be, getting into a sort of conventional businesses, and relocation and mobility and logistics was just so unheard. And even today, when I say I'm part of global mobility, I still get questions like, is it a courier business? Is it logistics? Is it transport and all of that? So it was not something which was very common for people to do. And hence the expectations were really not there if I would want to join the business. But I think I always belonged here. It's been 14 years now. My dad and my mom gave me a complete free hand in, learning, growing. And when I started, we were about 30 people in the organization. And today we are close to 555 people in the organization and continuously growing. So I think we've done a good job. We've come really far from, growing, evolving, learning, trying to understand how we can do better. And in 2013, he thought I was capable to look after the business, and he made me the CEO of the company. And so it's been a great journey being, and sometimes people say that relocation is not really a woman's zone. It's a very male dominated industry and business, but I believe a woman is so close to her home that she is, it really belongs to the women, the entire move process. So I'm totally in the right space. But yes, you don't find many. My entire crew, my packers, my drivers, my supervisors are all fine gentlemen. I have a wonderful team that has mostly men members. I find myself in rooms which are just men and then me, but I love what I do. So I'm glad I'm here.
Thank you, Akansha. That is very inspiring. And to go from 30 to over 500 employees is incredible. You should be very, very proud of that. And I know that scaling is really hard just on its face, but to do that during COVID to keep the doors open. WeConnect International has surveyed women-owned businesses across 120 countries. The majority of them have been negatively impacted by the pandemic. So how did you address the challenges that came your way over the last year?
Well, I think like everybody else, COVID hit everybody very hard, unexpected, unknowingly. We were all planning our lives differently, and then suddenly everything changes. Unfortunately, like I said, we were in a business that completely had to shut shop because the flights were not operational. The trucks, in fact, in India, it happened overnight, right? So the trucks were on the borders and the drivers had to go home. So it was like lakhs and lakhs of trucks on the highway, just stranded, clients not aware where their stuff is. So it was a very lost situation. We had some clients who did not have their stuff and they were literally sleeping on floors. Because the moving services in India was not really classified as the essential service. And I can't really blame anybody. Like nobody was prepared for this kind of a situation, and everybody wanted to protect, whatever they could be protected. So we had clients who had left overnight and the stuff was lying in India. So obviously with time, we had never imagined a situation where you would pack somebody's house without them being in the house. And that happened. We unfortunately had to move some people who lost their lives due to COVID and their stuff was lying in India. So horrid stories. But yeah, in all, for a month or so, I think we were completely lost of how do we really start? Where do we start from? Because our packers, everybody were in different towns. The crew was all over the place. People were scared. India really had like lakhs of cases a day at times. And then obviously the relocation and the mobility business was completely stopped. Corporates were just not moving. And then suddenly the entire work from home concept happened in India. India is not known as a country that had a lot of work from home policies. And the corporates were also not prepared for their employees being in different cities and small towns and getting them to work. So the business continuity demanded the desktops to be delivered at homes. And I think we were pretty aggressive about it. We wanted to really fight back and find business. And then this opportunity stuck to us that, we have to diversify. So I think survival of the fittest is what really everybody had to do. We found our clients, and I'm so glad that Accenture and E&Y welcomed us with open arms, and they said, listen, this is what we need you to do. And this is the timeline. Yes, it was tough, but I think everybody was on it. Their logistics team, our team, everybody wanted to make it happen. So that was so positive. And that I think motivated all of us so much that, there is business there. There is a requirement that has really come up. So I think for any business, be it women, men, I don't want to classify that, but I think all of us had to find ways of sustaining. And we were very glad that we didn't have to fire anybody. We didn't really have to cut scales. We just had to go out there and find business. So when you're really desperate, you find things going for you. You really have to go out there and be positive and look for opportunities, and they'll always be there.
But for so many women business owners, it's really hard to find at Accenture or an EY. How did you do that? And how did they find you?
I think for any business owner, networking relationship is so important. You never know who you meet today and what works tomorrow. I have been knocking doors of a lot of corporates for years, and that's the only reason we've grown, because someday someone realized or opened their doors to us and said, okay, we want to give you a chance. And then you work on that opportunity. So Accenture was definitely one company that I've been trying since 2012. But the fact that during this period, they actually looked out and said, listen, we have a women-owned business. They've been trying for so long. We have a requirement. We may not get them on board for our regular work, but let them give this, let us give this a shot. And they did not really care that it was a woman, because at the end of the day, people, it's just natural that during the pandemic, it's been a little harder for women. I would just have to take that away from men a little bit because, women have children, family, husbands to take care of. I have a 2-year-old daughter. So obviously people believe that maybe a vendor will not be as productive because they have multiple responsibilities. But Accenture was like, we want to give you a chance. This is what you need to do. And and so was EY. We had met them at the WEConnect event, and I had been in touch, constantly trying to make things happen. And I understand when they don't have opportunity, they don't have opportunity. And they should not be giving me business because only because I'm a woman-owned business. I really want to get my business on merit. So I'm sure there are many suppliers who keep trying. So they need to be fair to everybody. And but when it mattered, they really gave us an opportunity. And they had multiple suppliers, and they said, whoever does the best job will obviously take the bigger pie. And I'm so proud that my team did take that bigger pie, and we were pretty much on it. So thank you so much. Can't really tell you what it means to us.
Well, congratulations. And I would love to hear from Lisa and Peter a bit about your background and, why are you so passionate about women's economic empowerment and gender inclusive sourcing? What does that matter to your business? Maybe Peter, I'll start with you because Arkansha mentioned Accenture and then obviously also mentioned EY. So I'm fascinated to understand how your two very large organizations, leaders in many spaces, are leading this wave, this movement. So Peter.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and thanks so much for Akanksha for your amazing story. And we're so glad that we're able to collaborate with you and work with you. So Accenture, for those who don't know Accenture yet, we're a global professional services company. We work in 120 countries, over 40 industries, with over 500,000 people. Every morning I look on our website to see how many we have. So we now have 514,000 people. And it means that we're a company, people are our asset, right? So our capital. So it's very important for us to make sure that we have all the talent in our workforce because we really want to have that talent working for Accenture. And it also goes for our supply chain. For us, it's important that we tap from all sources to find the right kind of talent, the right kind of innovation for our operations and for our clients. That's very important to us. And that's why we feel very strong about having an inclusion and diversity program, but also having an inclusion and diversity program that focuses on our supply chain so that we have that broad choice and sources to tap from. And we have our global supply inclusion sustainability program now in 20 countries, and we feel that it really has increased our visibility to the right kind of suppliers, the right kind of businesses, including women-owned businesses that can help us really to improve our own operations. And we see that really happening with companies like PM Relocations from Akanksha, who really have been able, also during the COVID crisis, to help us improve ourselves, to help us really with the challenges that we have in India with relocations and moving. So it does really make sense, and it does add value. And like Akanksha said, we're not hiring women-owned businesses because they're women. We're hiring them because they are the talent, they bring in innovation, they're a great supplier to Exchange, and that's what's important. We really want the best suppliers for our sourcing opportunities. And yes, they happen to be diverse, they happen to be women-owned or LGBT-owned or whatever, but we really want that talent, and it really works for us.
Lisa, please tell us your perspective on all this.
Thanks for having me. There are certainly some similarities with Accenture in terms of the why. I mean, we are also a global multidisciplinary professional services firm with, I think we're at 350,000 at this point, so slightly smaller than Accenture. And we've had an imperative around gender equity and parity since the early 1990s. So this is not something new for us. We started our supplier diversity program 16 years ago. Our mission in the world as an organization is to build a better working world. And when you think about what that means, it's an internal imperative, but it's also an external imperative. So who are we in the world? What's our culture? What is our objective? How do we work with others? That's an internal question and an external question. And so within the firm, we really have an imperative around creating a culture of belonging. Well, that's also true externally, because we know that women have been underserved historically in the working world. So have minorities, if we think about US, Black, and Latinx. So our mission in supplier diversity is really to try to right that ship, if you will, and build those bridges, create opportunity for those who may not naturally receive it. And this program is multifaceted. As I said before, it's global. It includes impact programs that are meant to provide education and resources. It includes a sustainability focus, and it also, we measure our success. So I can tell you that between 2017 and 2020, we did $327 million worth of business globally with WBEs, and that well exceeded our target of 100 million. And that happens because our people are focused on, creating opportunity and building bridges for businesses like Ankar's.
Wow, that's really impressive, Lisa. And Peter, I'm curious, how do you do this? I mean, is it super easy to find these diverse suppliers? I'm asking because in the procurement space, historically, it's been about consolidation, right? Having very few suppliers. But COVID, I think, proved the riskiness of having a reliance on only a few suppliers. And so how did you diversify your options or leverage the investments you've made in diversifying your options at Accenture?
Sure, Elizabeth. So luckily we have a CPO that has a certain vision about that procurement means a lot more than consolidation and just saving money. And that's why he changed the name from Procurement at Accenture to Procurement Plus, because he really wants our procurement functionality to be an added value to our business and to our operations. And that's exactly how our program comes in, because we bring that added value, because we help our procurement people, our stakeholders, our Accenture business to find the right kind of innovations within our supply chain and within our value chain. So we really see that that's important to Accenture, and especially in this crisis, like you say, it really proves that sourcing local, sourcing from smaller businesses, sourcing really look beyond what's out there, what you already have, is really making a difference, and making a difference in making your company more resilient. But not just that, it's also, like I said earlier, we're serving our clients in 120 countries. That's 120 markets. That's 120 economies that need to be sustainable, that need to be inclusive, that we need to also care for, because, yes, we're a company that focuses on shareholder value, but we also want to make a social impact to the economies that we operate in, because we feel that responsibility for ourselves, for our employees, for our clients, and for the people that that we work with. So it's important that we invest back in that, in those economies. So that's how we see that our supply chain also can add value to that objective. And of course, how do we find those diverse businesses? How do we find those women-owned businesses? Well, we're one of the co-founders of WEConnect International, because we see that having such a business network, a global business network, helps us to create visibility of the kind of businesses that are out there. They help us to connect those businesses with our sourcing opportunities and make it easier for procurement people and our stakeholders to actually find them, right? You can't Google diverse businesses. You need that network, you need the expertise also locally. And that's why I love it that WeConnect has so many people also in local markets to help us, because you need those local people also to help us understand the market, help us understand what the suppliers need, help us understand the language and the culture, so that we can really create that success and increase the number of suppliers like Akanksha that we have today.
That's wonderful.
And sorry, one thing I wanted to mention is also that we have our mentoring and training program, because hiring and finding diverse businesses and women-owned businesses is not enough. We also need to help them to be successful, not just in winning a contract with Accenture, but also sustaining a long-term relationship with us. And we're not easy. We're a complex organization with complex processes, with tendering and supplier relationship management. So we also want to make sure that they understand what it means to supply to us, so that they know and are prepared for that, so that they know what to do when they work with us, because it also is in our interest that when we hire a supplier, it is not for 3 months, it's for 10 years or 15 years, as far as I'm concerned, if it's successful. So we have that mentoring and training program really designed to help them be ready for that, not just also on a procurement standpoint, but also helping them to grow their business, because we have over 500,000 people at Accenture that help our clients with their expertise. We also want to offer that to the diverse suppliers, so to make sure that they really can grow and be a good supplier to us and to the others.
I love how you explain, Peter, that you're not just leveraging your purchasing power, which is a significant commitment. I think it's one of the most important ways we can measure a corporation's or an organization's commitment to impact is how they spend their money. It actually says a lot about what you truly value. So I love that not only are you leveraging your purchasing power, but you're also investing in those diverse suppliers, finding them, but developing their capacity to be competitive and to add value. So I know that, Lisa, EY also makes significant investments, not only leveraging your purchasing power, but in finding and helping women in businesses and other diverse suppliers grow. What are some of the challenges that you've seen diverse suppliers have in getting into these value chains, especially as it relates to women in businesses? And how is EY helping?
Yeah, I would say that for many underserved entrepreneurs, whether they're women or minorities in their own countries, it's really a question of access and opportunity. One of the things that we recommend to women-owned businesses when we find them when they're young companies is to consider, over a period of time as you work to scale the business, how to replace yourself as the chief operator. Because one of the impediments is if you're focused inward in the business and you're actually operating a lot of the levers, you don't have time or space to work on the business and to look out and beyond what you're presently doing to plot your path to growth. We've been working specifically with entrepreneurs across the world since the mid-'80s. That's a market focus for us. And we've had a program for women entrepreneurs called Entrepreneurial Winning Women. We've been in the market since 2008. Today, there are about 750 participants across 48 countries on every continent. So we have a really kind of big vista on some of the issues they face. And it really always comes down to access and opportunity. The other thing I would say is many times they're not thinking big enough because they haven't necessarily had the role models that demonstrate to them what's possible. It's hard to be it if you can't see it. Once you see it, and once you have a peer community of people who look like you and are on the same journey, you have an easier time imagining yourself taking those bold steps. And then supplier diversity programs and programs like Entrepreneurial Winning Women connect those ambitious entrepreneurs with the resources, the educational opportunities, the ecosystems they need to find the opportunities and then take full advantage of them. I mean, to me, it's kind of funny to me that, we still have these conversations. Women are half the population. Women are incredibly innovative, incredibly resilient, incredibly creative, and highly ambitious when they're in the right setting. And so to me, companies, firms like ours and Accenture and so many others, it's kind of a no-brainer. If you're not looking for these enterprises to add value to your own supply chain, you're missing out on a huge amount of talent, across every sector, providing resources, services, manufactured goods in every place you can imagine. And so everyone should have an opportunity. To us, opportunity extended to any entrepreneur should be extended to every entrepreneur.
That's wonderful, Lisa. Now the time has flown by. All of you sharing these incredible stories of your passion, your commitment to inclusive growth, to smart business, recognizing that women represent about 1% of the spend of large organizations, whether there's corporations or governments on average globally with women-owned businesses who own a third of the world's businesses. They're half the population, as you said, Lisa, but they're 1% of the winners of winning the money that is spent on products and services. So that's a massive market failure. And in 1 minute or less, I would love to ask each of you, what advice would you give? Maybe I'll start with you, Akansha. What's one piece of advice you can offer to other women business owners who are dealing with these business challenges, especially with the impact of COVID-19? What step could they take to try to thrive in this current environment?
I'll take a cue from what Lisa said, that sometimes women don't see it and they believe that it cannot happen. So I think it's very important to have that self-belief, because yes, there are many stories out there of fine gentlemen, achievers who've achieved and done a lot, but maybe there are very less women stories. And that's the real fun, right? To make those stories, to make it happen. So I think if you have that determination and that madness, and you love what you do, you will find that way. You have to be a little patient. There will be people who would tell you that you may not be the right person to do it. You know, you have a responsibility at home. You're going to have a baby. You have children to take care of. But it's only your heart that really knows what you can achieve. There are really no barriers out there. We have to really figure out what our heart truly wants. So I think, yes, if you love what you do and you have a real great idea out there, you will find your way. Just believe in that vision that it will happen. It's got its own pace, but keep at it. You have to keep at it.
I love it. And you're a living example of what can happen when you keep at it and stay focused. So Lisa, what advice could you offer to corporations that are interested in global gender inclusive sourcing? How can they support these women-owned businesses through these challenging times?
Well, I think you have to ask yourself, if you're not doing business with half the population, what are you missing out on, right? And then you have to create real programs, real resources that are designed not only to find them, but also to support them. As we have said, building capacity is important for any business. And for those that haven't had as much opportunity, understanding how to grow and to scale is a really important part of success. Because as these opportunities arise, if you're not in a position to take advantage of them, it's almost like you weren't given the opportunity in the first place. So I think it's, look inward and ask yourselves, what am I missing? And then take the steps to build the bridges to find great entrepreneurs and give them opportunities to be part of your supply chain.
That's very helpful advice. Thank you, Lisa. And Peter, as someone who's sort of been there, done that, what from your own experience could you recommend to corporations that are seeking to be more inclusive in their sourcing practices?
Well, I wanted to start with pick up the phone and call Elizabeth Vasquez and join WEConnect International. That's a good start for sure. And furthermore, if you're a global company and you're in procurement, you kind of know what your footprint is, right? You know where you are, in which countries, which markets you operate. Figure that out and start there. Figure out, where is my supply chain? Where do I spend the most? Where are my sourcing categories? Where's the low-hanging fruit? And just try to create that information, that data, so that can help you to create a baseline and say, okay, these are the categories, these are the markets that I need to focus on. Make sure that you have leadership engagement. We're very fortunate to have Julie Sweet as our CEO, who's really focused on sustainability and inclusion and equality. Also, our CPO, who's based in Frankfurt, really wants this to be part of his procurement function. So that really helps, that leadership engagement top down. You need your champions on the ground. So you need your procurement people and internal stakeholders. Make sure that you have all those teams together, because they can really help you to grow the program in your countries. And work with the business networks like yourself, WEConnect International, how I started. And quickly, for the women-owned businesses, thing you can do today is register with WEConnect International as well, because that's free of charge. And that is how you start connecting with us procurement people. So I would also give that advice.
Thank you, Peter. I think all of you are shining examples of the art of the possible. And I hope that the members of the UN Global Compact community will take advantage of the opportunities that are available that you've shared with them to really create equal opportunities for inclusive growth and prosperity, and to be proactive in finding those underutilized suppliers who are those nuggets of knowledge and passion and connections to community that can support your brand and your efforts to make sure that you identify the best solutions to the problems that your organization faces, while also contributing to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, especially Goal 5 on gender equality, so that in 10 years we can actually achieve the SDGs, which seems very far away. But clearly by leveraging the purchasing power within the UN Global Compact community, we can go a long way towards achieving those goals, including poverty alleviation and more sustainable ways of doing business. So thank you all for being a part of this. Thank you to the Global Compact for their leadership in all of this. Together, I know we can make a measurable difference.